Welcome to another exciting episode of 60 Plus Uncensored, the show where we have real, unfiltered conversations with people over 60 who are still working, growing, living with purpose, and refusing to fade quietly into the background. I am your host, Seb Frey, and I started this podcast because I wanted to shine a light on the people who are still out there doing the damn thing, building businesses, chasing dreams, raising hell, or just living life on their own terms. I'm excited to welcome a true trailblazer in the world of senior travel, Debbie Dotson. She's the heart and soul behind Senior Travel Adventures. As host and creator, Debbie empowers curious, bold explorers over 50 and over 60 to take the trip and live life on their own terms. Under her guidance, thousands of seasoned travelers have discovered new destinations, tech tips, and the confidence to jet off solo or in small groups. Debbie, thank you so much for being here. Would you please tell us the Debbie Dotson story?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a really long one because I am 68 years old. But basically, I worked in the corporate world for many years. I reinvented myself. Two, three, four, five careers. I'm probably in about my fifth or sixth career right now. I'm a adjunct professor. That's my part-time gig. That was my quote retirement job, but I don't believe in retirement. I believe in rewiring. You don't retire, you rewire. So I'm in the process of rewiring, and that's how I came about starting to do the senior travel thing. I was doing technology training for seniors, and I don't even like the word seniors, by the way. In fact, now I wish I had not used the word seniors, but now I'm branded as Senior Travel Adventures. But I don't like even the connotation of what a senior, the word senior is. Age is just a number. It shouldn't limit us from embarking on exciting adventures because life is still full of opportunities, whether we're over 50, over 60, over 70, even over 80. I actually have my own podcast, actually a little cable show in a couple of regional communities, and I've interviewed two women. One is 87, still travels solo. Another is just turned 90. She's been traveling solo for 50 years. So, I think that we have to just focus on that each stage of our life brings us possibility. It's up to us what we do with what we have. And, I think people are the numbers are holding them back. And I want people to start thinking about how they feel, how they think. And, I'm not talking about physical ailments. I realize that, some people at some ages have significant physical challenges. So, but I'm thinking that I know a lot of people, I think back to when my grandma was my age. She seemed like old, right? I don't feel like my grandma. And so I think that there's a lot of us like that. I don't you think that that's the case, that a lot of us just don't want to feel or don't feel like that old number that it used to be from back when we were little? I just
Well, that's certainly my experience. I mean, when I go around, I mean, like I see really amazing people who are out there, still like, raising hell, right? I mean, like they are
yeah,
out there like living
yeah.
life, like very similar to how I imagine they were living life 20, 30, maybe even 40 years ago in a lot of cases.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, about that. I've actually pondered that several times about what makes someone feel still energetic, still feel young in mind and spirit, and what makes them feel like they got to sit in the rocking chair kind of a thing. I mean, I just look at what has transpired over those years, and maybe when they were younger. I mean, my brain, if I don't look in the mirror and I don't think about that my knee hurts or my back hurts, I feel like I'm still in my 40s. I mean, that's my mindset. And so what I try to do with the travel side of things is to keep people thinking about that, to keep them thinking that just because you turn 65, 70, 75 doesn't mean that you have to stop enjoying your life. And in fact, in many cases, we, if we've done okay in our lives, we have the means to do that. But I also do respect the fact that some people are on fixed income. So when I talk about travel on my show, I like to focus on different age groups, different trips, different, what the structure of the trip is. I recently had a couple. He's about to be 84. I didn't ask her age, but probably she's in her 70s. They've done the Camino de Santiago several years in a row since 2014. And not just what I'm doing the Camino in October, but I'm doing the final stage, which is about 70 miles. You have to do 100 kilometers to get the Compostela certificate. But they actually started in Saint-Jean-Pierre, France. They crossed the Pyrenees. It took them 40 days of traveling of walking to get to the cathedral and to get their certificate. And this was when they were in their 70s. I mean, when you think about that, and I follow a lot of social media groups of Camino participants and pilgrims, and I see this story more often where they're older. It's just it's inspiring to me, and in fact, that's what inspired me to take to consider the Camino journey. I felt like I was past my ability to do that because I had a couple of things wrong, small things, thankfully nothing major. But I used to be, when I was 37, I decided to become a triathlete. I was not skinny, I was not fit, I was none of those things. And I participated in more than 200 or 300 events from age 37 to age 60. And I'll tell you what stopped me from running. I broke a bone in my foot just randomly, not working out, walking from point A to point B, twisted it. That stopped me from the run part of it. I did get back on my bike, and I love cycling. That was my favorite part of triathlon, was the cycling part. But what happened was I started worrying about falling. And, I clipped in with my pedals. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. I have, the doctor said, oh, you have bad bones, your bone density. You need to go on, I'm taking, medication for osteoporosis, that type of thing. And so I kind of got myself convinced that those days were over, that I wasn't able to do those things anymore. And it took a couple years of just rewiring, that part of my brain to say, wait a second, let's see what you can do. Let's not think about what you can't do. Let's see what you can do. So I started walking more again and going to the gym every day and feeling better because, working out alone, just walking, taking a 30-minute walk is great for your brain health and your emotional, all that stuff. It improves that right away. So I thought, okay, let me see what I can do. And then I went on a river cruise, my very first river cruise. I wasn't sure what to expect because I thought, okay, maybe they're going to be a lot older. And I was pleasantly surprised about the mix of people on a river cruise. And I like the fact that it was, that there was that age range. So I met this couple, and they're from Texas, from Austin. And they're in their 70s, and she has a lot of physical problems. And she started telling me about the Camino de Santiago. And I was just amazed at her ability to do this. So I said, well, you know what? Maybe that's something I can consider. And so a couple months after that, I've kept in contact with her. And, she encouraged me. And really, it was because of her that I even knew about this. I didn't even know about the Camino at all until then. So she got me going. And so I credit her encouragement for me to be doing the Camino. And so, I want to pay that same thing forward. And that's what I try to do with my newsletters, with my website, with my blogs. Today I did a webinar via Zoom about solo travel over 50, because so many people are fearful of solo travel. So, you might wonder why, since I mentioned I have a husband, that I travel solo. I He doesn't want to travel anymore. That's just the bottom line. He's at the age where every time I do come back from a trip, if I've had any air travel issues, he's like, "See, that's why I don't go. See, that's why I don't go." Now he uses the excuse that he takes care of the cat. But he does, which I appreciate. But, it's just one of those weird things. He's like, I just don't feel like going. I'm like, "Are you sure you don't want to go?" I offer all the time, "Are you sure you don't want to go?" No. And then you talk to friends. You say, you know, "I'm going to go to XYZ. Are you interested?" They're all interested. "Yes, yes, yes, we want to go." You tell them, "Okay, well, we've got this date. This is how much it costs." They all just evaporate. And so I told myself a couple years ago, I can't, life could be short. We don't know what we have. We don't know what tomorrow holds. While I'm healthy enough to go, while I have the ability to go because of being a part-time professor, I can take time and go, I'm going to go. And so in December of 23, I took my first truly solo trip for me. I had traveled for business for a long time solo, but that's different, I think, in a sense. I planned my whole trip. I had never done anything like I did. I took the train. I did it all myself. I went to England. I went to London, and then I took a train to Liverpool, and then I flew from Liverpool to Dublin. Loved Ireland. That's back on my list of return trips when I get through the trips that I are really high on my list. So coming up for me travel-wise, I am going to the Camino, and I'm going to walk. I'm going to do what they call the slow version, and I have it's over about a 10-day period. My biggest day is about, I think, 11 miles, which, when I go travel and I go visit cities and go to museums and go see sites, it's easy to put 25,000 steps on my watch, So I'm thinking I can do 6 to 11 miles over, let's say 9 full days of walking. I am not going fast. I'm going to stop and look at all the stuff. I'm going to look at all the churches. I'm going to do all of that. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to fly all the way there to Spain, I'm going to go to Morocco because Morocco's on my list. So I'm joining a tour. I'm not doing Morocco alone, although I'm not afraid to do it alone, but I decided, somebody that I met on a solo trip said, "Hey, we're going to go to Morocco in October," and I was like, okay. So I joined that tour. And then, because I'm trying to build, my own following, I got a media pass to the World Travel Market. And the World Travel Market is in London. So this will be my biggest trip to date, with the 3 components. I have no idea how I'm going to pack for all this because I'm going to 3 distinct locations with 3 distinct climates. So it should be interesting. But I want to do things that I can tell my audience so that they're excited, that they're excited about doing these things too. And about removing that fear factor. I have multiple mottos. One of them is replace the fear with the fun. People that get worried about, what if the plane gets canceled, or what if I'm delayed, or what if, I don't know what happened to me that I used to be, when I worked in the corporate world, I was stressed out all the time about travel. Now, no stress. I go. If my flight, I worry about if I'm going to make a connection, but otherwise I'm not going to worry. I don't stress about it like I used to, and I don't know if that came a little bit with age, but I don't stress over that at all anymore. Because I just went to visit family in the U.S. Into Alabama, and my flight thunderstorms and all kinds of crazy things, of course, when you go back to the Southeast. So that's kind of how I got where I'm at, you know. It's just I enjoy helping people. I enjoy educating people, and so I just chose that the senior audience was going to be my choice of audiences. I like TikTok. I have a TikTok, you know. I got some really fun TikToks. I got one with me dancing with AI, with Michael Jackson, doing, you know, a Michael Jackson dance. You have a picture of yourself just standing there, and the AI puts it all, and you dance right alongside Michael Jackson. It's great fun. Um,
Sounds like it. So, one thing I was wondering about though is that you mentioned that you are or were an adjunct professor. Adjunct
I
professor
am.
of what?
Well, that's also a great question. Right now, I just retired from one job. I taught technology, like basics of technology, cybersecurity, ethics, that type of thing at a university through last December. But I retired from that job because learning about new technology every single day was taking up all my time. And I was like, okay, in order for me to teach, I have to know it. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So at the same time, over the last 6 years, I worked for two universities. So now I work for one, and I teach brand new students to our institution. So my program is called Program and Career Exploration, or PACE. And what PACE is about is time management, goal setting, learning the online portal, digging into their programs that they're in. And I have students all the way from 17 to 60. My oldest student so far over 6 years has been 60. Right now, I have a girl that just graduated from high school in Germany. Her father's in the military. So I have students globally, which is very interesting. But one of the things that I like about teaching this particular course is that I can change someone's life. When I first, I'll go back way back because you asked the question, but I graduated from high school in a blue collar family where college education was not even on the table. And it and I just decided when I was 21, I was married very young, had a child very young, and I decided I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to become a professional of some type. So had a mentor at community college. He wasn't much older than me, maybe 4 years. He was teaching part time, and he's the one who told me you can be anything you want to be. You can do whatever you want. You just have to, you know, do things to prep for it and get the education. Anyway, let's fast forward now. It's how many years later? 40, 45, I think. 45, 46 years. No, more than that. I'm 68. So I was 21. So that many years later, we are still friends.
Oh, wow.
But I, that, he was my mentor. And without him, I don't know where I would be today. And so if I can help just one student, and I know that I have done that with some students, that's what I'm about. So I like this course because it's not a structure, like it's not math, it's not biology. I mean, I could teach business all day long because I was in business and management and sales for many years, very successful in sales of educational technology. That's what I sold for years, was educational technology. But anyway, yeah, without that mentor. So it's kind of my give back job, because I'll tell you, people think, oh, professor, when you're an adjunct professor, you're a part timer. It's not a good paying job. When I first started working at both universities, I could have made more as a Starbucks barista.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how much adjunct professors get paid, and I guess not very much. I guess my father was actually an adjunct professor of writing at UC Berkeley Extension. I guess that's what you would call it. So I
Okay.
don't think he made any money at that to speak of. But so you had that mentor. The mentor told you that you can be anything that you want to be, and I think that a lot of folks who get to be 60 or 65 and like they wind down their career, um, they face a lot of ageism, and I think that they internalize a lot of that ageism, and then they believe that they can't really be anything that they want to be. They think that their time in the sun is gone, and that life is just passing them by. What advice can you give people who are maybe in that position to, know that really this is not the end. This is actually this they're just turning the page and maybe the best chapter is yet to be written.
Well, and exactly, and that goes back to my, retire versus rewire. Um, I think you have to figure out what you enjoy though to do that to make that change because you know it's kind of a double-edged sword because I faced ageism and didn't realize it at the time because I had a job, but when that job, because I was in educational technology, that job ended when COVID hit because I was working with school districts and everybody was closed. And that at that time I thought I'm not going to get another job. How am I going to get another job? Now for me, I started making a preparation to make it the change to be the I knew that my retirement job was going to be an adjunct professor because I knew that that was something I could do. And you only have to have a master's degree and the background, in the whatever you're teaching. They want you to have 3 years of teaching experience, but can you imagine? You asked me about this, and I'm thinking as you're asking me this, how many people at our age we have such a knowledge bank of things that we could share with the younger generations and a lot of people don't realize that they have that capacity or that capability to share that. So I would say to somebody that's at 60 that is facing the ageism, what it's really hard when you are interviewing. I had an interview once, and I'm trying to think when this was. Not, like back when all this happened, before I started doing these jobs. And the guy was like, the VP of the company was like 28 years old, and he was calling me dude. I'm like, I'm like, wait a second, whatever. So I think that to overcome that kind of thing, I think you have to decide first what internally would make you the happiest. And you also have to set your expectation. Are you going to get that $200,000 a year job at 70? You may not, and that's I think another thing is, I was used to making better money, and so going into teaching, I knew that I was going to have to accept what they offered and no benefits. I mean, you don't get anything. And I think that that's part of the mindset, what you're talking about. But I'm always telling my students about growth mindset. And I don't think that growth mindset needs to end at any age. I think that if you believe you can't do something, then you won't be able to do it. So I always tell them, this is my words, I can't do it yet. And it doesn't matter if you're 70 years old. If there's something you want to do, you can say, I can't do that, but I can't do that yet, or I can't do it yet. Is that always going to work? No, but it does put your mind into a more positive place. I think that we have a tendency as we do get a little bit older to start to doubt ourselves. The self-doubt part of things is really part of why people can't reinvent themselves. They don't believe that they can do it. So it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't do it, right?
It's like Henry Ford said, right? Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Exactly. I love that one too.
That's a
So,
good quote.
so that's a great quote. And, I kind of live that philosophy about be the change, right? And first generation college student in my family. So when I have my students that are first gen college students, I let them know that's great. You're setting the stage for future. Now my grandkids, they would never not think about going to higher education. It's just
Right.
not in there.
Yeah.
It just my family, nobody went. I mean, well, my mom didn't even get her GED until she was, oh my gosh, probably in her late 40s or early 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
it is incredible. She actually worked for Chrysler, not for Chrysler, but for ARA Food Services. She worked her way up. She was a waitress. She was an unwed teenage mother of me. And she worked her way up as a waitress. And she started working at the doctor's lounge at a big hospital in Michigan. And then she got this job at ARA and one of their cafeterias at Chrysler's World Headquarters, which at that time was in Highland Park, Michigan. And they saw potential in her and they started promoting her. And finally, she got to this plot where they're like, we can't promote you because you don't have a degree. And even though you have the experience, she didn't have the degree. And so she ended up running when they moved from Highland Park to Auburn Hills, Michigan, to the new Chrysler headquarters. She ran their entire food service division, 5 cafeterias, and I think like about 1,000 employees
Wow.
with a GED.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So,
It was, yeah.
earlier you said that you had been a triathlete and then you broke a bone in your foot, and then you had to rewire your brain. That's interesting to me because it seems like you're a pretty adaptable person. What was it like breaking your foot that really required like you to like rewire your brain? Did you lose your identity as a triathlete, or like why was that such a struggle that it took you 2 years to like get past that?
To get even past to get on my bike. Well, first of all, you're hesitant because you don't want to re-break something, right? So that's one thing that comes into your brain. And the other thing was that, okay, I really got fearful of running. I can't even really put my finger on why. Because I'm pretty much, if I want to do something, I do it. But I just felt like if I didn't want to re-break something, I didn't want to break something else. So I told him, I started walking, when I finally got to the point, but I stopped doing any events. That was, I guess, really the turning point. Is up until then, I was still doing the events. I mean, I did my last sprint triathlon at 60 in the spring. I broke my foot in June, and I think in May I did the last triathlon. I didn't do a good job. I didn't put enough training in. See, that's one thing about triathlon is you have to put a lot of training time in. And I was at the point in my life I was busy with work and all this stuff, and I just didn't put the training in. And yeah, you can, if you have the base, you can go out and do a sprint triathlon because it's not that far. But then I thought to myself, do I really want to keep doing this? So I still can, so when I finally got past myself, I found a local group that that were runners, and I did start running a little bit with them again, and I became part of that group, and that's what got me out of my funk, so to speak. Is they were meeting at 5 in the morning to go run, which I don't like 5 in the morning, but I they would go, I would go meet them, or I would go support them at an event, or um, just go, they'd have some evening walks. I'd go walk with them in the evening. Getting engaged with a group. So I think this is an important thing that just came into my head about anybody. Find other people that you can, that like go to meetup.com or whatever is in your local area, and find people that are doing things that you might enjoy, so I don't even know how I found them, maybe through the running store, and I thought I needed to get some support, and they've been supportive. And ironically, I've kept in contact with them over the years now that I stopped, running. And now that they put my walk, once a week I do a morning walk for Camino training, and they put it on their schedule. But we call ourselves a B&B runner. So I guess once a bear, always a bear, whether you're walking or not. And as far as the biking part, I did get back on my bike for about 3 years. And then I had some back problems, and my bike sat inside the house because it was an expensive bike. And one day I said, you know what, you're not getting back on that particular bike. So I found it a good home. A young man, a triathlete, a young man bought it, and he sends me pictures of him and my bike all around town.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so that is actually really powerful too. Is the community, right? I don't think it was the fact that they were running, really.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
just the
community,
community, really. That really helped you, turn your mind around. It
right?
sounds like. So now, before you started this, senior travel adventures, had you really done a lot of traveling before that, or not really?
Just work and just local. My husband and I went on a cruise. Our last cruise was in 2017. We did the Mediterranean. It was wonderful. We were supposed to go to Greece, but then COVID hit, so that came off the table. Before that, I'd been on a couple of cruises. I'd been to Paris once um, in 1999, and an ex we when we were still doing triathlon and marathons, he did a lot of marathons. He went and ran the Paris Marathon, so we went to Paris. But I hadn't gone solo, other than local work related things. Mostly, I'd either go back to the home office in Georgia or Tennessee when I worked different companies, and then west. My region was always in the west, so Arizona, California, mostly California stuff. So yeah, I mean I would go for 2 or 3 days, stay, do my work. Didn't think about that in terms of being a solo traveler though. You know, just
Right. So,
now it's different. Now it's different.
so solo traveling. Let's just say that because I don't know. I would imagine that you probably have a fair number of people who are widows or widowers, right? And then they're like, well, what do I do now? Like I haven't really traveled, but I've always dreamed of, going, on a bus trip through Europe or whatever. Do you recommend that people who are new to traveling, like hire a travel agent or get on a tour, or should they start with solo travel, or what do you think for someone who's just getting their feet wet traveling after 60?
It's so funny because I did an educational webinar earlier today, and it was about getting your feet wet more or less. What the different types, like independent travel versus group travel. So, I think I do 90% of my following is solo female travelers. I have some men, but not as nowhere near, obviously. It's funny because I know men travel solo too, but for whatever reason, they don't have groups on Facebook. I mean, one of the groups I belong to, there there's 640,000 people in this group of women over 50. 640,000. So, and then I'm in some other just generic solo groups. There's hardly any guys, but I know they do travel. So going back to what your question was, start small, take baby steps, and you don't have to just jump out and see the world. Now, if you want to do that, there are ways to do that. I think it's a great way for someone who's apprehensive to go with a tour group. I think that's a good first step. Independent travel is great if you feel like you can do that, but so many don't. They're just afraid. And I see these comments over and over and over particularly from the widows, or maybe recently divorced or something. They're well, what if I'm lonely? I'm going to tell you, sometimes you might feel lonely, but that's your thing. You can stop that by going and doing something or talking to someone. People who are introverted, oh, I can't go because I'm an introvert. Actually, solo travel is great for an introvert, believe it or not. because you can control your interaction, right? So I do say, I know people are crazy about AI, but I actually did a webinar for AARP Senior Planet on using AI to plan travel. And what I suggested to people is, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? How long do you have? What's your budget? Go to ChatGPT, go to Claude.ai, tell it what you want and have it spit out an itinerary for you. Now, if you don't want to go and make all those arrangements yourself, then absolutely get a travel advisor. I have plenty of colleagues and friends now that are in the travel business, and I'm not trying to push them out. I just know that AI can really narrow down and give you some ideas that you may not have had otherwise. So, going back, what I told my people today was, if you're really scared, look at a map and look about 100 miles out from your house. Because, in the old days we had a paper map and you could circle it. Circle out what's within 100 miles of your home. Is there something of interest? Is there something to go see? Is there some place, maybe a concert? Or maybe you just stay and take yourself out to dinner or to the theater by yourself. Try it first. It may not be comfortable for you. Then you have to make a decision. Do I want to try again or not? Now, if there's something you really want to see, then you should probably consider group tours. And you can go all the way from a small group tour of about 8 people up to, big tours are about 40 people. If that feels overwhelming to you, then maybe you'd start with the smaller tour. There are some tour companies, and in fact, I was in a focus group and of ladies, and we were talking about what stops us from taking certain tours and what they call solo washing, which is, they tell you there's no solo supplement, but yet their price is way higher, and so there's been a solo supplement.
What's
But
what's a solo supplement? What does that mean?
okay, so when you're a single traveler, anytime you see anything, go to any site, it says double occupancy. Price is per person, double occupancy. Well, solos, how do they charge solos? Some companies, that was the cat, by the way.
Yeah, I saw the cat.
He
Nice looking
just went
cat.
he went through the air. But no, they charge you. So some of them charge you double. And so what is an acceptable amount for a solo supplement, and why would they charge it? Well, if they're planning, let's say it's a tour operator and they're planning that there's going to be 2 people in that room, and let's say we'll use $5,000. They're going to make $5,000 off of 2 people. But now you're the solo person and they're only getting 2,500. Well, they might be paying, that might not cover the room rate, whether there's 1 or 2 people, because people always argue this. Well, there's only 1 person. What does it matter if there's 1 or 2 people in the room? Well, it makes a difference to the tour operator, because that's where they get profit, is from that differential. So what's an acceptable solo supplement? Well, that was what we were discussing. And the threshold of the group was about 18% higher. They were willing to pay 18% more than so let's say it was a $2,000 trip, they would pay 18% more to be a solo traveler.
So, can you negotiate with these people? I mean, like a lot of times you're just ordering off a website. So, can you negotiate, like send an email to customer service, or how does that work?
Not really. Um, what you do is, you watch for sales. Sometimes they do have sales, so much off the trip. Sometimes they will say no solo supplement. I don't want to plug a specific company because I get no value, but I've been on 4 of their tours so far, and I'm going on a 5th. They have, for the last couple of years, they've offered a sale for like 2 weeks where they don't charge the solo supplement. And let me tell you, we crash their website every time because everybody's waiting. Right now, they say it's going to be, the rumor is September. Everybody's waiting. For me to go on that Rhine cruise last year, because I waited for that sale, I saved $3,000. I would not have been able to afford to go on that Rhine River cruise without that no solo supplement sale. I'm going to Antarctica they're charging me about 25% higher as a solo. And I did try to negotiate as a content creator. I got nowhere. So I just watch for sales. So yeah, they don't really negotiate because they don't care. They can fill their spots. Now, if you're flexible though, if you wait till about 90 days ahead of a trip, sometimes they'll put the no solo sale up there. But the most notorious for charging twice as much to a solo traveler are cruise lines. They're notorious. They
Notorious for
won't.
that.
Yeah, they won't. Or now one of them has started. They have like about 20 solo cabins. They're the size of a closet with no window.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So, you said that most of your clients are women, and I've heard before, like like years ago, from young women, that they are really afraid to travel solo, right? They're afraid of all the things that women might be afraid of. Uh, so, what advice do you give to 60 plus women who are thinking about travel solo, who worry about safety? What can you tell them about that?
Oh yeah. I do have that on my blog. I did a whole safety thing on my blog. Yeah, it's challenging, especially when you go places where there's a lot of pickpocketing, right? So I there's different levels of what I say about security. One is know your surroundings, right? Um, Pay attention to what's around you at all times. I personally travel with a man a it's a manufacturer name called Travelon, and I travel with one of their crossbody bags. It has special zippers that connect. I don't think you can probably see this, but I have a lanyard for my phone now with a case on it. So I actually put my phone on the lanyard and I put it into the travel on pouch in the front so that I have two places where my phone is connected. The other thing is about your passport because passport theft is really big right now in foreign countries. Um, if you're in one location, you should lock it in your safe and you should carry a picture of the last page of your passport, which has a barcode on it. That way you can go to the embassy and get a passport right away. But I am trying a product out called Spotminder. They're sending me one. It's a passport cover that it's like an air tag where it actually has the GPS in it, the location. It's actually built into the passport cover.
Oh, wow.
Um, I think that's a fantastic idea, by the way. And I'm so glad I'm going to get to try one and talk about it. But yeah, and then as far as rooms, we if the depends on how the door locks. And let me tell you, in some of these older hotels in Europe, the doors are really, really like scary. Because they don't lock, they got like old fashioned lock, or they like one of the hotels I stayed at, the key was like on a big, like a skeleton key. Um, but there are ways. I usually will put a chair in front of the door. You can buy these little devices on Amazon where you can put it under your door. I do think that's a good idea. Some of them you can even buy where they have like a little beeper in them, and so if the door got moved, but if they have like that lock with I don't know what that lock's called, where it comes back over the door like a hotel has that
Yeah.
thing. You can take a washcloth and put it up through there, and then they can't push the door open with that. So
Okay.
those are kind of things, but personal safety is something that comes up a lot, and my best suggestion is you've got to be in charge of your own personal safety. You've got to be aware. You can't put your purse or your phone down. And I'll give you an example. When I did this group thing to Florence earlier this year, I was on a tour and then I took some of those ladies with me on another part of the tour to Florence. This woman, we air tagged her. We put an air tag in her purse because she would wander off. She would put her phone down everywhere. And realistically, she probably shouldn't have traveled on her own because of, her. some, you know, brain stuff. But nevertheless, we did take care of her. But like people, that's what they watch. They watch for people like that that are easy marks. Or I was standing at the Ponte Vecchio Bridge right out of the Uffizi with one of the other ladies, and she's from New York. She's very with it. She's very used to stuff, but she had her purse. Her purse was unzipped on the outside. Now she was holding her phone in her hand, but I saw out of the corner of my eye these well-dressed young ladies coming straight for us, like they were going to take a picture. They were headed right for her bag, and I turned and looked right at them. So turning and looking right at the person, that if you make eye contact with somebody that you feel might be threatening, that can go a long way too. But make sure you people know where you are. Your family knows where you are. Turn on your location finding on your phone. Have a check-in time with your family or whoever. That if you don't check in with them by a certain time or 2 days or whatever, that they call out for something, right? But this is where also going with a group can help. You're still going to have free time and you're still going to be at risk if you're walking around and you have to be cognizant of your personal belongings. But when you're on like with the tour group, there's people looking out more for you, I guess is what I'd say. But don't get lulled into false sense of security. The other thing is wear money under your clothes. Don't have everything in one place. Don't have everything, all your credit cards and all your money in one place. Split it up. You can get these little things that go under your shirt. They put your money in. They'll fit your passport too. But if you are staying at a hotel and not changing from day to day, then I suggest that you do leave your passport in the hotel safe and not, somebody said, oh, well, they can break into the safe. Well, yeah, they could, but you're more at risk carrying it out on the street than you are leaving it in a hotel safe.
Right. So, what are your top like solo traveler destinations? Like not you, but like not
Yeah.
for you, but just for like if you were to advise some generic person you never met, like hey, where should I go traveling solo? What are like the top three like countries or like cities or like tours that you would recommend?
Well, I think a really good starting point is probably going to be a country where you can understand the language if you're going totally solo on your own with no group. Because then, you can communicate, read the signs, all of those things, right? And Google Translate is your best friend, by the way. Google Translate, totally free. Read your menus, translates menus. I cannot, Google doesn't pay me, but boy, they should. Um, so, and I used to call myself a Loogler, in love with Google, because I used to teach Google stuff, and I've been to Google in Mountain View, and oh my gosh, that was fun. That's a whole nother story about feeling old, but like if I would have been younger, man, that would have been the place for me to work, would be Google. But anyhow, yeah, Google stuff. But I think going to Europe is a great place to go. If you're active, if you just want to see history, we don't understand in this country about history if you haven't seen those things. We're such a young country, we do not have that depth of history like they have in Europe. Italy is beautiful. Um, Iceland, believe it or not, is a wonderful trip to take. And I got to see the Northern Lights 2 nights in a row. But Iceland's very popular right now. That's a hot spot. But I think right now the hot spots are probably going to be Italy is really, really hot. Portugal has become really, really a popular destination. If you're super active, Costa Rica, if that's something, if you really want to, do the jungle thing and are still physically fit and want to go, Costa Rica is pretty popular. Um, And if you want to stay in the United States, the national parks are that's been a very popular thing. I do find those to be very pricey for a solo though. I had actually looked at um, going to like Zion and Bryce and things like that, and the tours were just out of my range. If you're not as physically fit and you want to see and money isn't as much of an object, the Rocky Mountaineer. I took a trip with the Rocky Mountaineer last year. I did what they call a FAM trip, which is a familiarization trip. So I got it at a very discounted rate. I went with a bunch of travel agents. I think the Rocky Mountaineer does a fabulous job. They have both bus travel and the train. You don't sleep on the train overnight. But if you're like in the age group maybe where you don't want to do as much walking and you don't want to do as much physicality, Rocky Mountaineer through the Canadian Rockies from like Vancouver to Calgary or backwards, really great. Um, Morocco's hot right now. Morocco's big right now for solo women travelers. And you mentioned younger women. I think younger women are starting to travel more solo now too. I think there was a time where they didn't, but I think they are. And I actually met a young lady out of the Bay Area. Um, I had her as one of my first guests on my show last year. She started a company called Greet Her. And Greet Her will match you with your bestie anywhere in the world. So basically, you pay a fee to have a personal tour guide they can meet you at the airport. They can help you navigate their city. You can hire them from 2 hours to 2 weeks, you know, and they're like your companion. So if that's a good way also for solo travelers maybe to kind of not feel solo and kind of get their feet wet with somebody. But anyway, she's doing really well. She's gotten a lot of accolades lately, and Forbes picked her up just recently. But her company was born out of she went on a solo trip to Morocco and she made a bad decision and could have turned out much worse than it did. She was able to fix the situation, but she could have been kidnapped. And she was so shaken by that. That's how she started this company. She wanted women, whatever age, to be able to travel and feel confident in their travels, and that's why she started the company. So she's I actually used her service for free. They gave it to me in Montreal because I didn't want to talk about something I hadn't tried, because that's another thing. I don't usually ever talk about things unless I've tried them myself. um, and I'm honest about things too. If something isn't, if somebody sent me a product for free and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, you know, I got this Eco Flask bottle. It does hydrogenated water. I mean, I get the concept. It's supposed to make you healthier and especially great for older people. And I did it every day for 2 months. I turned the little bottle on. It was all, connected to an app and all that. I couldn't tell the difference.
Right. Well, that sounds very interesting. That Greet Her, and I'm very proud Bay Area. Yo, that's really cool. So, we're kind of running out of time here, but
Okay, sure.
before I we wrap it up, one thing we didn't talk about was cruises, and like that's
Yes.
what my parents do, like whenever they can. They go to vacationstogo.com. I don't know if
Love it. Yep.
my mom
Love
swears
it.
by it. And I imagine that a lot of people who are older think about cruising, once in a while. Do you have any advice about cruising?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cruising is great. I think you need to set your expectation. If you want a super active cruise, Virgin Cruises is a much younger crowd, so that doesn't mean you can't go if you're in your 60s. That might be your thing. Personally, at my age, I would never go on a Carnival cruise. Sorry, Carnival, but it is not my thing. And don't watch the Netflix movie Poop Cruise because you'll never get on a Carnival boat. But it's all about, they lost power and the poop was coming up and the boat. It was really bad. But I think for people with ambulatory issues, cruises are a great idea too. And I feel like people in their like 80s, that's a great way to see the world. I'm actually trying to coordinate. I met a woman, she lives on a cruise ship. She's on one of those live on cruise ships. She's been
I keep
living
on
on the
hearing about
cruise ship.
her.
Yeah, her name she has a cat. She Captain the Cruising Kitty is her cat, and they cruise around the world. And but anyway, yeah, I feel like that's good because boats are they can handle like motorized scooters. River cruises, you could use a cane on a river cruise, but most of them won't let you with a walker. The other thing that happens on a cruise is you have everything's there, right? You unpack that's what my husband loved about our cruise is, he's pretty high strung. He liked being able to unpack once and go and see what he wanted to see, and not have to worry about all that. So I think cruising is wonderful, and vacations to go. If you can go on short notice, some of their deals are incredibly good. Now they do have a solo section. If you go to Vacations to Go, they have a little thing where you can look for solo cruises, and it'll tell you what the percentage is of, what it is for double occupancy versus a solo. So I do love. I mean, I'm just trying to think about where I want to cruise next. I thought about cruising around Australia. I thought about cruising Japan. Both of those are on my list of coming up things. But now I just booked Antarctica,
Oh,
and so I'm doing that in December. So October to the beginning of November is Camino, Morocco, London, home for 3 weeks, flying to Buenos Aires, and going on for 10 days on Hellenic, which is one of the Antarctic cruises. It's they're those are going to be active. Now you can cruise Antarctica on a regular cruise ship. There is a difference, an expedition cruise versus just a cruise. So, and if a person didn't feel like they were physically able but wanted to see Antarctica, major cruise lines have regular cruises. Not too many of them because they don't have a lot of boat. They don't let the big boats there. But a friend of mine, a solo male traveler, he just came back from cruising Greenland with Princess Cruises. So,
oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
he liked it. I don't know that that would be me because I'm still more of a go, go, go person. But I think that the one thing to end with is that don't fear it, enjoy it, embrace it. Um, just don't let that fear of what if hold you back because we don't know we don't know if tomorrow, we don't know if we're going to open our eyes tomorrow, you know?
No,
It,
we sure don't. So
and I go while you can.
go while you can. So you have a podcast, you said, and
I have
a
a,
blog. How do we
yeah,
find your podcast and blog? And do you have a YouTube channel, TikTok? What else you got? How do we find all that stuff?
at Senior Travel Adventures is Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, at Senior Travel Adventures all together.
All in one word.
Yeah. If you want all my links, if everybody's listening, I'll try to. It's I don't know if anybody knows what Linktree is, but linktr.ee /ageless adventures. If you go there, it has links to all of my content. So I have a cable show that airs in Fresno on Xfinity through a public access channel. And that same show airs in Orange County, California on Village Television. So between those two goes out to about 650,000 people. And once a month I talk about travel, I interview someone on their travels, we show pictures. It's just fun. We have fun. And then that goes on to my YouTube channel, which is at Senior Travel Adventures. And then on my website, which is seniortraveladventures.net, that's where you can find all my blogs. So I'm four posts in on my Camino training, in addition to all my other blog stuff. And then, I post on Facebook. I'm Senior Travel Adventures on Facebook. You can follow my page, join my group. I do educational things for free. I have not monetized, really. I've gotten a couple free products, but really it's just been a labor of love.
Wow. So you are certainly staying very, very active, and like I can really feel like your excitement and your energy level. And yeah, you don't seem like someone who's 68. You seem more like 28, I think, in terms of
Thank
your
you.
energy and enthusiasm. And I think you are a good spokesperson for the brand, certainly. And I'm going to go check those out, and I will have all those URLs in our show notes.
Perfect.
And also, you mentioned that Facebook group with 640,000 people in it, the solo travelers. What Facebook group is
Solo
that?
in Style. Solo in Style by Deborah Ives. Don't be, some people have stolen her name, but you want the Solo in Style with 600, I think 632,000, I think is what she has. And then another company called Journey Woman, they have some stuff. And I'm a speaker for them. I haven't gotten hired, but I'm on their speaker list. But those are both promoting solo female travel over 50. Which of course is my niche, but any solo travelers, senior travelers, all comers can enjoy my content.
Perfect. All right. Debbie, thank you so much for joining me
Well,
here today on 60 Plus
thank you.
Uncensored. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, thanks again, and I will catch you on the flip side.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Subscribe now.